Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show for February 13th, 20 Grind Teen. And the grind is here. This is the week. All the games are happening, and we're going to be talking about two of them today, or at least showing you one and talking about one. With me is Jared Walton.
Hey, guys.
Our experienced hardware editor. Has been basically living inside of a apocalyptic wasteland for the last.
No, I've been living in a post-apocalypse benchmark.
So you've been testing out Metro Exodus and the RTX specific features like ray tracing and DLSS, and you're gonna break it down for us.
Yeah, I got lots to say on the subject.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. Then we got Chris Livingston, staff writer, all-around funny guy, who just disappeared. He just disappeared.
Oh, no.
Oh, there he is. Chris.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I was just saying.
Wrong button. I hit the leave call button instead of the unmute button. It was my finest entrance.
Right on cue. Right on cue. You're going to be talking to. Well, we can't really give your verdict on it quite yet, but Far Cry New Dawn is available to stream today, so
we're going to stream some co-op, and I think while we're doing our Q&A and mess around in Far Cry New Dawn.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. But let's get started as we usually do. Oh, first though, I do want to mention that the RSS feed is almost back, completely back. So we're in the process of transitioning to a new provider, or a new host, excuse me, which means the PC Gamer Show is on Spotify, it's on Google Play, the iTunes feed is not up to date yet, but we will also in the show post have a new RSS feed that you can use in whatever provider you like. So we are back in action almost. I'm working. Our iTunes account was set up so long ago that it's out of date and broken, and getting it back it's a bit of a hassle. So we're getting there. But yeah, let's start off with our highlights of the week. Highlights of the week are whatever stood out to us in the last week in video games, whether it's something we played, something we read about, something that occurred to us in the middle of the night. And let's start with you, Jared. What's your highlight of the week?
I don't know if it's a highlight necessarily. So, Metro Exodus is out. Second RTX-enabled game to go publicly available. It's got real-time ray tracing for shadows. So Battlefield 5 only used ray tracing for reflections, and Metro only uses it for shadows and, I guess, lighting, but not reflections. And spoiler alert, it looks different, but it's not it's kind of like the difference between maybe ambient occlusion using SSAO and ambient occlusion using HBAO plus, or something like that, where it's like, okay, the shadows look different. I can see that they're maybe more accurate, but so far it's not something that's just going to knock me on your butt and go,
yeah,
wow, this is amazing. So that's kind of interesting. DLSS is also supported. That's their deep learning super sampling. I feel it's snake oil. I mean, I know it's not.
Yeah, all right.
Like that's what everyone's saying. Like right when we heard about it, I'm like, wait, you're upscaling a lower resolution. Like the idea of using deep learning to do just anti-aliasing, I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. I think you'll get good results. To do upscaling with anti-aliasing, I'm like, well, that's you can't really fully create data that's not there. You can just kind of estimate. And NVIDIA's thing is like, well, it looks about the same as temporal anti-aliasing, which it tends to be blurry. So it's this thing where we take the blurry form of anti-aliasing and we say we can match that with deep learning super sampling. And I'm like, it's kind of true, but when you do a still screenshot comparison, you're like, whoa, that is really pretty blurry and there's a lot of detail lost. So I mean, I'm one of those guys who I'm like, I prefer more detail rather than less. So I've never super liked the temporal anti-aliasing or SMAA or any of these other post-processing filters. But it's kind of the world we live in. Performance does improve because you're running at a lower resolution.
Well, that's nice. Well, and let's hold off on getting too deep into that quite yet, because we're going to talk at length about Metro and your experience with it so far.
Well, there's also like I tested Division 2 beta last week, which was like, so I tested the Anthem beta whenever that was 3 weeks ago. Anyway, demo, yes. I wasn't super like thrilled with Anthem, but then again, it was a new world. You got dropped into the middle of it. And you're like, I don't know what's going on. Everyone's like, hey, freelancer, I'm really hot for your body, but you can't romance me, right, Chris?
They do make prolonged eye contact.
They're very friendly in that base.
Yeah. Well, and Division 2 is a lot like that in some ways. Like, you keep on running into these people, and they're like, man, if only everyone were as awesome as you.
Meanwhile, there are like 80 copies of you walking all over the place.
Yeah, it's like, good job, whatever they call you. I don't even remember, but it's kind of funny. But I thought Division 2 felt like a better game initially from the beta compared to the Anthem demo. I don't know how it's going to play out in the full release, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
Cool. We were talking about that in chat. I forgot who brought it up, but maybe it was you, Chris. What if everyone just addressed everyone by their job title everywhere you went? Hey, games writer. Hey, games writer.
Hey, editor.
Yeah.
Nice work, editor.
That was a really insightful article on Apex Legends, James. Good job, editor.
Thank you. I'm known across the continent. Cool.
Yeah, but then what if you are unemployed in this game world? What do they call you?
Freelancer.
Same thing.
Oh, I guess so. That makes sense.
There's no dialogue written for that. You're
hey,
invisible. Hobo. Cool. So benchmarking, you're in the middle of a bunch of that, and will be for the foreseeable future because a lot's happening.
I got buried in snow up here in Washington.
That's right.
This past week, and I also got buried in benchmark. So it's fitting.
Appropriate. All right, Chris, highlight. What's up? What's been going on?
I actually want to talk about something I've been playing for a couple weeks called Outward, which is a fantasy RPG. It's not out until like the end of March, I think. And I somehow got I don't know why I got such an early look at it. But it's coming out in March. Developer is called 9 Dots. And it's really ticking a lot of boxes for me in terms of it being this kind of fantasy world, but also having these survival elements. I wrote about it on the site a couple weeks ago. But I like the kind of when it comes to survival games, I like a lot of survival stuff, but I don't like building myself a box to live in. I don't like cutting down endless trees and putting up planks and winding up with an ugly box home. Mm-hmm. So this doesn't have base building or anything like that. You can buy a couple houses in major cities, but it does have a lot of survival elements, and it's got this really wonderful feeling of before you set out, you gotta fill up your backpack and make sure you've got everything you're gonna need, and make choices about what you're carrying because you only have a certain amount of space, and you have to worry if you're going into the desert if you have light clothing on, desert robes, and if you're going in somewhere cold, you need to have fur armor on. And I really enjoy what it does with spell casting, because I got my first spell, which is a fireball spell, and it basically doesn't do anything on its own. On its own, it's a little poof of fire, and you can set something on fire, but it doesn't hurt them much. And that's because you need these physical components and this other ritual to give this spell actual useful power. So you need to mine these mana stones, and then for fireball you need to turn it into a firestone. So you actually have to do some crafting with the stone and some oil until you get firestones and have them in your inventory. And then you can cast. You do this ritual. It's like casting a sigil on the ground, this fire circle. And as long as you're standing in the fire circle, the fireball will actually be like really pretty powerful. So it kind of gives spellcasting this like physical component to it
Hmm.
and makes it feel like, you know, you can't just reflexively just tap a button and shoot a fireball. Like if you get surprised, it's something you kind of have to like, oh, I got to do this. I got to make sure I have this in my inventory. I got to cast this first starter spell, this sigil on the ground, and then you can kind of become a spellcaster. And if you step outside the circle, you're back to throwing like basically what is a lit match at people. Um, so it's got this kind of like process to everything, not just, you know, survival and eating and crafting, but also in spellcasting, and that's kind of enjoyable. I mean, you think about a lot of RPGs where you're casting spells, it's like, hey, I'm level 0, I've got a fireball just to give me something to use.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is like, it, you know, was like probably 7 or 8 hours just to kind of get this starter spell and the stuff I needed to actually use it. So that's been kind of a lot of fun.
That
Yeah.
sounds like classic Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like level 1, your mage is pretty much cannon fodder. You
Yeah,
got to get to like level 7 before you could cast Fireball or whatever it was.
yeah, and even just to like get, you have to give up some of your max stamina and max health, and you can decide like how much. Like if you want to go full on spellcasting, you can make yourself really physically weak, but you'll be a stronger spellcaster. But it's like, do I want to do that? Because I've been getting my ass kicked left and right here, all over the place. So I think I did like 25%, and my spells aren't super great, but I think I might go back. You can later go back and give up more of your health and stamina to get better spellcasting abilities. But yeah, it's been fun, and I think it's a really neat game.
Yeah, that's rad. It's got a this I don't know. It looks like the marriage of Dark Souls plus and that's like I know that's an easy crutch with which to describe a lot of games, but it's got that Z-axis rotating combat. It's got
Yeah.
that like this complex spell system you're talking about that reminds me of something like The Witcher 2 or the original Witcher, where you really gotta be ready. Plus some survival game stuff. Is it a survival game in that it's like Ark in that there's like a bunch of people in the world with you, or is it just a more solitary?
No, it's you can co-op, but it's a single player
Gotcha.
game. There's a story. It's an RPG with quests, and you pick a faction you want to join and kind of do side quests and exploration. And it's not a complete open world. There's like different regions. I think 4 different regions. I've only been to the first 2 so far because it is a really the pacing is very deliberate. Like this is not a game where I've been like, oh, I'll go do 5 missions. It's like, let me go talk to one person and then try to kill the one bandit they need killed. And that'll take me like a couple hours just because it's like, well, I can't just rush in there. I got to make sure I've got all my stuff ready to go. So I like the kind of measured pace of it.
Yeah, you know, in a gaming landscape where the popular thing is to like immediately boost you to hero status, that sounds like kind of like a relief. So that's the end of March. That's Outward, right?
Yep.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. My highlight is a pretty obvious one, and it's probably a lot of other people's highlights. Is Apex Legends. I reviewed it. It's Respawn's new free-to-play battle royale game. It was announced and released last Monday. Not last Monday. Gosh, it's been over a week at this point. But yeah, it's an excellent game. The last time I can't remember. Maybe it was when PUBG came out. I can't remember the last time I just knew where all of my friends were going to be online every day after work, and Apex. Everyone's just in Apex. I'm getting invites left and right. I feel like the cool kid at school right now. But it's a really streamlined take on battle royale that introduces. I just love the respawn system. What that does for pacing and for my anxiety when it comes to these kind of games. I don't feel like I have to be. I don't feel like I have to be on edge 100% of the time, or have to be the best performer to like get back in there and can actually contribute. The character classes are, especially over the last week and a half, have been really sort of revealing themselves and their utility in some surprising ways.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning, I remember day one, people were like, oh, Bloodhound, wow, he can show me where someone was 2 minutes ago. How useful is that? And now I'll watch streams and like he's being used like so aggressively, getting fed those ultimate
Yep.
accelerants because he's so useful to like really track down and figure out where everyone is.
Yep.
Very cool stuff.
I'm a big fan of Bloodhound. I got that gosh, the old timey Victorian doctor mask outfit, which I'm loving. But yeah, it's just a almost perfect execution of the battle royale format in the sort of like shooting frameworks that started with Call of Duty. And was like perfected, I think, in Titanfall 2. I don't miss wall running at all. I don't miss Titans at all, because that world is so much fun to slide around, and the character abilities sort of like, give you different ways to get around, along with those big balloons. Like, I don't know. I could talk about this game forever, but it's just,
how are the skins, James?
skins. Well, at first I thought they were really boring, but there's some pretty like tasteful reskins in there, and I think the exotic ones aren't that exciting. The rarest ones, I think the best ones are just like literally texture swaps. Like for Pathfinder the robot, I got a cool tie-dye pattern, and I don't know, it really pops to me, even though it's like a common. So they're not Overwatch tier total redesigns. Some of them are, but they do the trick. They do the trick. I'm not going to sit here and like spend $100 on microtransactions, but I enjoy.
So you say now?
Yeah, I know, right? Wait
Check
till that
back
season
with
pass.
next year.
I'm really looking forward to the next thing. I'm just looking forward to like what their season pass looks like and their ongoing support looks like. Because I mean, right now it's been beating Fortnite on Twitch over the last week and a half. A lot of the big streamers have moved over to it. Respawn's been reporting big player numbers. I'm forgetting what their latest mark was. I think
it was 25 million.
Yeah, total
with
accounts.
2 million concurrents over the weekend.
Yeah.
I would assume it's maybe has risen. And like what a refreshing kind of situation to like just this game just appears and it's out, and I would say relatively like there's no beta, there's been no like early access. It's just like here it is. It does not have any major issues. It's fully formed. It's fun, like just kind of out of the blue, and it's pretty rare these days where instead of that you get beta access or 2 to 5 months worth of trailers, and here's all these characters. Instead, it was kind of fun, like to watch, some great players kind of learning how to play. Usually, when I turn to a stream, someone's already an expert, but this was like watching.
Yeah, for some fun perspective, Evan in chat the other day was like, remember when PUBG had a trailer for vaulting and people went batshit? And it's like, here's Apex, just arrived out of the gate. It's fun to parkour through that world, move through that world. Everything works. Everything's complete. It's not a buggy mess. It performs well. I don't know. In my review, I basically capped it off by saying it is. I think it's the only battle royale game. As much as I love Fortnite and can recognize what PUBG has become, it is the only battle royale game I can recommend to just about anyone with no caveats. It's just good, and if you've played a shooter in the last like decade, you'll probably be able to pick it up and do well enough. So,
the shocking thing to me is like the Apex Legends, launched like a week after the Anthem demo, and Anthem was so buggy and had so many problems. And I get like there's a lot more going on in the Anthem world. You're not just basically one map where you are playing multiplayer, but it's the same companies in theory, EA, doing this, and the one was just kind of a mess with all sorts of bugs, and the other was like, how did this like just launch without the problems that all these other games have?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's just the
It's impressive.
two different, uh, I guess, pipelines for how they were putting out these games, and it's interesting to see the reception to both so close to each other. But hopefully, Anthem's launch goes a little smoother than the demo did. But we'll find out in God 2 days, very soon. But let's move on to the topic the next big topic at hand, which is Metro Exodus. You were talking a bit earlier, Jared, about its performance when in regards to RTX and DLSS, but briefly, I just want to get I want to talk about our review real quick. So I'll post that in chat. We reviewed it, pretty good score, I'd say, and the overall sentiment from what I've played like maybe 5 hours. And from what Andy Kelly, in his review, is that these are really massive, fascinating mini open worlds. There's like 3 or 4 of them, I think, that make up Metro Exodus. But a lot of the sort of legacy quirks have remained, which include some pretty
really
dull,
bad voice acting.
Yeah, awful voice acting. Just terrible voice acting. It's almost
It's like the most stereotypically bad Russian voice acting.
Oh, it is really, really, really distracting. And it like that first hour of the game is pretty much on rails until you get dumped into the open world. And there's a lot of talking, a lot of being dragged around by these chatty characters who, in some ways, like they're charming, and you can sort of see what the writers are going for, but the execution, I think they're very overwritten. They talk a lot nonstop because you are a silent protagonist, except for weirdly the loading screens when you monologue what happened up until that point.
Yeah, it's like you want to respond with something to these guys, and like they just go on and on.
Oh.
Like, and sometimes you'll walk into the room and there's like 5 guys there, and they all start having their little blips that they're chatting at each other. And if you got the subtitles, there's like 5 things going on. You're like, oh my gosh, like one of you needs to shut up, please, or 3 of you.
Yeah, it's so chatty. But if you can push through that, and I really hope people do, those open worlds they're just gorgeous. Like Jared, you've been benchmarking, and it's kind of hard to deny the art direction and the atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, and so like you got to look back at the history of the series too. Like I almost feel like the first Metro was kind of this thing like, well, look what Crysis did. It was so demanding. Everything choked on it at the time. The first Metro was kind of like that. If you tried cranking the settings to maximum, even without, they had SSAA, super sample anti-aliasing, which it's kind of just like running at a higher resolution. So, but if you did everything but SSAA, it still choked pretty much any GPU you had at the time. And these days, yeah, it runs well, but we're now, 7 years later? I don't know. Anyway, so, and Metro Last Light was kind of the same thing. So you had these beautiful underground environments in the Metro, and, it's kind of interesting to run around. And it really punished your hardware and pushed graphical limits and all that stuff. So the new one kind of carries that forward. I've got, I haven't finished writing the article, but I've got nearly all of my GPU benchmarks done. So 1080p low. Most things can clear 60 frames per second.
Cool.
But they'll have dips below that.
Mm-hmm.
This is minimum quality. An RX 574 gigabyte got 87 frames per second with minimums of 48. So, that's pretty far down there. There's a little bit of hitching now and then, like as the areas dynamically load in, and maybe that's part of it. But still, 1063 gigabytes, just a little bit faster than the 1066 gigabyte. The RX 588 gigabyte came out a little bit faster than that. It's at 100 frames per second, and maximum performance with like 2080 Ti, 1080 Ti is about 170 frames per second. So that's fine. You they have this one setting called shading rate. So
I didn't notice that.
Going to talk technical for a minute.
Okay, here we go.
So NVIDIA's Turing architecture created this new thing called variable rate shading. And the idea is if you're looking at an environment and it's like, hey, that's a flat wall that's just got like a texture applied to it, you don't need to do a ton of shader computations to make that wall look accurate.
Hmm.
Whereas if you have something like a control panel with lots of buttons and doodads on it, like you would need to do more shader computations to make that look right. So using the Vulkan API, I'm not sure if it went public or not, but Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, had a demo at least by NVIDIA of variable rate shading, and they showed how like they kind of color coded the world so that it was like blue was 1-to-1, red was like 2-to-1, and so they had everything from like 100% shading up to 1/8 shading, and they said they could get about 20-30% performance improvement by
Okay.
running at lower shader quality or lower shading levels on less complex surfaces. Well, Metro Exodus doesn't have that, but it's got this thing called shading rate where you
Hmm.
can just set a global thing that says do 50% shading on the whole scene, or you can do 200% shading or 400%
Hmm.
shading, which it's not quite super sampling because you're not running at a higher resolution, but it's doing more pixel shader computations per pixel. So
Gotcha.
either half as many per pixel or up to 4 times as many. I think most of us should run at 100% because that's just like a good baseline.
Sure.
But the low preset in the benchmark, which is what I based this off, um, uses the 50% shading rate, which means
Okay.
half as many shader computations, and that helps a lot. Plus lower texture quality, lower shadow quality, all of those things. So you bump up to medium quality, which moves up to 100% shading rate and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And let's see, a RX 580 barely manages to hit 60 FPS average with minimums of 35. The 1066 gigabytes at 55 FPS, 53 for the 570. A 1050 Ti is at 30 FPS. That's
Gotcha.
at their normal quality. So like super demanding. RTX 2080 Ti is at 145 frames per second still, but that's a $1,200 graphics card, so not really
You
if you
better,
can
yeah.
even buy it at that price. Radeon 7 is at 113, basically ties the GTX 1080 Ti. So super demanding.
Yep.
Then we move up to 1080p high. Performance drops about 25% as well. And then that's where I started testing ray tracing. So
Ooh.
uh,
And so,
so
okay, just before we get into that, if people don't know what ray tracing is, can you give us like a 2 second? I know you love to give us the history, Jared, but do your
so
best.
the idea is ray tracing. Basically, you go, okay, I want to accurately light up this pixel, and so at one level, you could just say, I'm going to fire one ray per pixel into the world, figure out where it reflects, bounces around, does it hit lighting and such, and you try and determine what the final color of that pixel should be. But there's actually multiple passes of ray tracing because
Right.
you really have to do one for the texture, one for the lighting, one for maybe things like reflections and refractions. So you could do all these passes. Metro Exodus is only doing shadows, so it's
Gotcha.
basically sending out rays to determine, it hits a surface and it says, okay, what light sources can this see and how should this be lit up? So it's
Right.
supposed to give you more accurate shadows in this case. And it's pretty computationally intensive. And the thing is we've got all these fake shadowing techniques. So you've got shadow mapping, you've got pre-baked lighting calculations where static objects, you can figure out their shadows ahead of time so that you're like, hey, I don't need to worry about running all these complex calculations. Dynamic shadows are more
Hmm.
difficult. All of those things exist. And like the ray tracing lighting in Metro Exodus looks better, but it's not going to blow you away. If you're just playing the game rather than looking for the differences in shadows, I'm not sure you'd really notice like a major improvement. Like I think if you did a double blind test where it's like you sat someone down and like, hey, play this and tell me if you think ray tracing is on, unless they're like really experts at knowing what to look for, most people wouldn't know.
Yeah, and for anyone watching right now, Jared, keep on going. But I'm
Yeah.
just running a video of the benchmark and a short clip from the first area with ray tracing on.
Yeah, and so one thing to note is like, okay, there's some funny stuff going on here. So Metro supports ray tracing. It also supports DLSS, where it like renders at a lower resolution and then upscales it. It's got a built-in benchmark. The built-in benchmark currently doesn't work with DLSS, even though it has the option there. DLSS isn't working right.
Great. Okay.
So that's kind of interesting. But then you get into the game proper, and DLSS can only be enabled at 1440p and above if you have a 2080 or 2080 Ti, but it can be enabled at 1080p and above if you have a 2060 or 2070.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's kind of funny because I'm like, well, wait. Like, all the data is there. It's not like the 2070 would use a different training set, but they're effectively saying, nope, you can't run DLSS at 1080p with a 2080 or 2080 Ti just because we're not going to let you. So anyway, ray tracing drops performance about 25 to 30% depending on your graphics card.
Right.
DLSS, if you enable that, and you can enable it at the resolution you're using, bumps performance back up anywhere from 15 to 30% depending on your resolution and graphics card and settings. So like if you're running 4K Ultra with ultra quality ray tracing, then you'll get closer to that 30-35% boost. If you're running 1440p high quality with high quality ray tracing, so like there's multiple settings you can juggle there, then you're like on a 2080 Ti, you might only see 15% boost from DLSS because it's not as taxed at those settings, which is probably why they locked it out from 1080p.
Sure.
But then the other thing is, like, if you look at the side-by-side comparisons with and without ray tracing, like you can definitely see how blurry it gets, especially at 4K. So I'm like, if you just rendered at 1080p and upscaled to 4K using, your standard bilinear filtering, trilinear filtering, like I'm not sure the result would be that much worse, other than you'd have more aliasing probably. So it's, I mean, it sounds great on paper. Hey, deep learning super sampling, and NVIDIA has this quote, which let me pull this up because it's great. Gosh, where is it? Anyway, oh wait, I know where it is. The quote is like, "Our supercomputers never sleep. They're always improving ray tracing."
That's grim.
Well, and then they're like, so DLSS, not ray tracing, DLSS. They're like, so
right.
What you get with DLSS today isn't necessarily what you get with DLSS tomorrow in the same game. They could bundle up a new, improved, trained neural network that they push out that will improve the quality of the DLSS in the game, which sounds great in theory, but I'm like, well, it's also this kind of cop-out where it's like, oh, if editor Jared goes, hey, DLSS looks blurry, NVIDIA can kind of write me off and go, well, yeah, but that's the early trained version. Just wait till what you see down the road. And it's like,
okay.
Well,
so you could be wrong, is what you're saying.
I could be wrong.
You hope to be wrong, but we're healthy skepticism.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it will improve somewhat, but sure. I don't think, like, if you render at 4K with a good anti-aliasing algorithm that doesn't make everything look too blurry, I think that will always look better than rendering at half the resolution and upscaling with DLSS. Like, you can't fully recover the lost data.
Gotcha.
But if you're in movement, will you really notice? Like, that's one of the things you also have to think about, right? Like, when you're playing this game, not looking at the frame rate, and this is a single player game too. Like, most people will just play the game and enjoy the environment, and it looks beautiful. Like, it's got really impressive lighting and environments and cool stuff like that. I'm not super into the gunplay and creatures. Like, sometimes they come back a little too quickly and they're kind of boring. They just run at you and you shoot them or knife them or whatever. But the world is pretty cool to run around. So there's that, and I'm like, yeah, it's just probably don't get hung up on looking at the frame rate and going, oh my gosh, I'm not getting 60 frames per second on my 1070.
I know. I'm on a 980 Ti and I have a 1440 monitor, and I've become used to running games at 120 plus FPS because I'm playing a lot of Fortnite and Apex and
Yeah, you're
such.
playing Fortnite at minimum quality, so you can max out those
I
frame rates,
know.
right?
So going from that to Metro, because I don't know, I feel like it's been a long time since I played a excuse me, like one of these games that pushes your hardware single player, and I have to run it at 1080, and I have to turn everything down quite a bit to even maintain 60, and even then, when anytime I fire a gun or some kind of crazy lighting effect kicks off, it hitches and such.
Yeah.
So
You said 980 or 980 Ti?
sorry, 980 Ti.
Okay. So
Yeah.
about it's pretty close to 1070 in performance, a little bit slower.
Yeah. It's fine if you're a 1080 gamer and that's what you're running on. I
Yeah.
think it'll do just fine. But it sounds
Yeah.
like to push some of that other stuff, you're gonna need to.
You need beefy system, a beefy graphics card.
Yeah.
So and like I said, the benchmark that they come with is probably more taxing than what you'll see in most of the game areas. Like some of the environments there's not as much foliage and other stuff going on. But in the benchmark at 1080p high, a 1070 averaged 56 frames per second.
All right.
So not much better than what you're seeing. If you want to go up to ultra quality, you'd need a Radeon 7 or above or an RTX 2070 or above to average 60.
Right. So it sounds like, I don't know, like I think the sentiment has changed over the last 10 years or slowly shifted. This is the kind of game, if you want it to look nice on all your on a nice monitor and run well, you're going to need to probably upgrade or have some pretty decent hardware. So I don't know. I think people, because I'm seeing some messages in chat that say it's going to run like crap unless you have the best hardware, and that's not cool. That's not great. And it's like it's going to run like crap because it's a game sort of designed to benchmark and push the hardware. So I think it's not necessarily, I don't know, maybe you can tell me, Jared, is this performance worse than you expected, better than you expected, or is it about on par with what you think people should be getting based on the hardware?
If you think you should be able to max out your quality settings just because you have an expensive graphics card, like that's not going to happen. So
Okay.
like they have an extreme setting in the benchmark, which puts the shading rate at 200% and does massive amounts of shadows and whatever calculations, which doesn't look substantially better. I mean, like if you do side-by-side screenshot comparisons, you're like, okay, that looks a little bit better. But 1080p extreme, not even the 2080 Ti can average 60 frames per second at the benchmark. And it's like Crisis, where it's like, hey, we created this mode that no one really should use, but we just threw it in there because, hey, maybe in 10 years people come back and they're like, hey, I want to see what Metro Exodus looks like if I turn the dial to 11. If you go for something more sensible like 1440p at high quality instead of ultra quality, you can get 60 frames per second on 1080 Ti, Radeon 7, the 2080 and 2080 Ti. You can even do it with the 2080 Ti with DXR enabled. I say DXR, it's ray tracing, but
Right.
and that's without DLSS. So, and really the game plays fine at 40 to 50 frames per second as well, especially if you have like a FreeSync or G-Sync monitor, which I always recommend. Like I've been recommending those 1440p, 144 hertz FreeSync, G-Sync stuff since they came out a year or two ago, 2 years, I think. They're great. And the variable refresh rate means that dropping below 60 by 5-10 frames doesn't cause the micro stutter and other problems you might otherwise see. But yeah, it's a super demanding game, especially if you want to dial up the quality settings. But be happy with medium or high quality for most people, I think, and you won't have to like sweat what you're missing out on, because once you start playing the game, like you won't really notice, oh my gosh, that shadow just doesn't look quite as good.
No, like I said, like even though like I'm struggling to run it at what I would like to, and I'm running it at a lower resolution than my native resolution, it still looks very, very good. So I think temper your expectations a bit. This is not one of those games that's just gonna like out of the box you're going to be able to. It's it's not optimized for to run at its highest possible potential on years old hardware. That's not the case. This is going to be one of those games that comes around every now and then that is going to be what inches people forward, if they so choose. But so to summarize, Jared, can you give us like just a brief overview? How well does it run? RTX ray tracing, is it living up to its potential? No.
I mean, if you want to run ray tracing at 60 frames per second, you're going to need a 2080 Ti. If you want to run ray tracing with DLSS at 60 frames per second, then you can probably get by with I don't know if the 2060 will do it. I need to look at that. It will probably come pretty close. But, you're not going to run 1080p Ultra at 60 frames per second with a modest hardware, because even without ray tracing, the 2060 gets 50 frames per second at 1080p Ultra. And again, there's areas of the game where it's probably going to be more like 60 or 70. There's areas that are going to be 50, like the benchmark shows. Gotcha. So, I can't emphasize enough, don't get hung up on those settings. A lot of people just think I have to max out everything. I don't want to miss out any of the quality. But I'm like, if you want, flip the game between medium and ultra and high and look at it, and you'll be hard pressed to really see the difference. And that's true of a lot of games. So, it's still a fun and beautiful world to run around, and it's interesting to see Metro leave the underground. So, just mute the voiceovers and you'll be good.
Right on. So we'll have your full benchmark up on the site in the next, maybe later this evening or tomorrow or sometime soon.
Yeah, I'm going to try and put up something today. I have not done CPU testing yet or notebooks, but I'll have the GPU stuff should be live within a few hours.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for all your hard work, Jared. And thanks for basically pushing me to get a new GPU, because I want a taste of this new technology so bad. Like these new lighting effects, even though I won't know they're there, I don't know. I kind of gotta have them.
I'm just as bad. Now that I've got the RTX cards, I'm like, no, I don't want to turn off ray tracing. I don't care if I don't see the difference. I want it on.
It's just a state of mind. It's a lifestyle. But let's move on to some really, really unfortunate news. If you haven't heard yet, Activision Blizzard during a call with investor call yesterday evening, was it yesterday? Feels like a year ago already. Announced that despite record performance, they were going to lay off 8% of the staff across the entire company, basically immediately. So do the math, and that's approximately 800 jobs. We don't really have hard number quite yet, and this sort of comes off the tail, at least according to the call and according to the CEO. Is it Bobby Kotick or Kotick? I've never heard it out loud. I'm realizing Kotick sounds a little. Kotick sounds. The CEO again reported a record year for 2018 during their fourth quarter earnings call, but said their pipeline is excellent. And our development, this is a quote, our pipeline is excellent, our development talent is the very best in the world, but we need to refocus our efforts so that our development and production resources are better aligned with our priorities. We're reducing or eliminating investment in games and initiatives that weren't living up to player expectations, or our leadership teams have determined may not live up to player expectations in the future. To drive improved execution and fund development investment, we will, in certain parts of the business, reduce complexity and duplication in our back office functions, consolidate certain commercial operations, and revamp our consumer marketing capabilities to reflect our continued migration to a largely digital network. So,
I'm laughing, and I'm not laughing at the people who lost their jobs, but that is the biggest load of crap corporate speak.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, I was going to ask you guys why.
It's awful. We're going to reshut. Anyone who's read Gilbert, you read this, you hear that, and you're just going, oh my gosh, this is so bad. We're going to realign our priorities and maximize. It's just corporate speak. They're basically saying, hey, we want to make more money, and we're going to lay off some of our people, and we're trying to chase the dollar signs. Is I mean, that's how I read it. And
Right.
I've been laid off from a job before. I was a software developer guy when I left college
Right.
20 years ago, and we had some layoffs, and I lost my job. And it was one of those things where you heard what the CEO said when you got laid off, and you're like, that is the biggest load of crap.
Right.
So like I totally feel for that. And the only thing I can say is like, you know, there's better jobs out there if that's the way they're going to treat you. And I wish all those people the best. But yeah, it's hard to feel any compassion towards the corporation that Activision is when you
Yeah.
hear statements like that.
A little more context that sort of, I don't know, like backs up, I think, the sentiment you're stating, Jared, is that last month Activision Blizzard brought on a new CFO who received a $15 bonus, $15 million bonus for taking the job. And
A bonus.
million dollars, break it down. That's paying a couple hundred salaries for a year. There's no doubt that executives rake in a shitload of money proportionate to the average developer or support employee or whatever it may be, PR.
Yeah, that bonus is, that's 150 people earning 100K or 300 people earning 50K. Like
Right.
support positions earning 50K sounds pretty reasonable to me. I'm like, so like your bonus covered half of the people that you just fired probably.
It's sad. Chris, do you have any? I don't know. Like for me, it's an obvious reaction. It's awful. It's terrible. And it seems like there's undoubtedly a better way. Undoubtedly. What do you think? What are your feelings after this big layoff?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard to stomach the idea of, we had record profits, but we were expecting 3.2 billion,
Yeah.
and we didn't. We only made 2.7 billion. Um, when expectations aren't met, I guess they just freak out and just start cutting.
Yeah.
And cuts like that often come, at the expense of like a whole bunch of people rather than maybe a couple executive types. It's usually, administrative staff, office support. I don't know much about all the positions that were lost, but
Mm-hmm.
they usually start carving at the bottom. So, or not the bottom, but not at the top, certainly.
Nope. Definitely not.
Well, the terrible thing is like, there's been people, CEOs get fired and it's like, oh, and their severance package was $5 million, stuff like that too. So
Yeah, it's they get a nice bonus for getting hired. They get a bonus for getting fired. Wouldn't be surprised if they get a bonus for cutting 800 staff members. Quite honestly, but it's ugly. It's terrible news, especially considering just how big this company is, and a lot of people work there for a long time that are now looking for work.
Yeah, and it's especially awful considering, like, again, like I really want to drive home. They had a record year, and this I don't know, this like it's different. The context is different for all these studios that have closed or laid off a bunch of people in the last year, including Telltale, and I'm forgetting the Marvel MMO folks, and gosh, I'm forgetting. I had a list somewhere, but I can't find it. The point is, this happens a lot, in spite of the financial reality of the companies making these games. And to me, it says the priority here is pleasing shareholders, and that's the bottom line. Obviously, make the people who care about the product are the developers, or at least like the genuine quality of the product as opposed to its marketability are the developers. And this whole plain-faced, just transparently greedy move, it's just awful. It like really hurt me because we I don't know, like we I'm not really friends with anyone in Blizzard, but on Twitter and elsewhere, you just see all these people who I can't imagine just. I'm an anxious type, but I can't imagine just having my life uprooted. Especially thinking about like growing up, Blizzard was the company. That was like if you wanted to be a game developer or you had dreams about making games, drawing weird mazes in your Trapper Keeper, that for a lot of people was the dream. And um, now it's it can come as easily as it can go, depending on the whims of people with a lot of money. And I don't know, like sure the reality is that as a big volatile company, Activision Blizzard has to any company has to like change priority and change the game plan and change react to uh, the industry and what's making money versus what isn't. But I can't help but feel like uh, this was a terrible way to go about it. Anyway, I want to read a couple comments from the club, our club members, and who had some things to say. Jellysickle, R.I.P. Blizzard, a little bit foreboding for them. Silent Marine says, layoffs right before Overwatch League starts. That's certainly going to hurt morale. Sure, yeah, no doubt. Deruo, so record year, no significant projects released, scaling down of franchises, but also massive layoffs? Pretty good question. JBJ Blaze says, I'm still enthusiastic about their games, even Diablo Immortal, but the layoffs and changes in staff are worrying to me at this point, especially considering their financial successes. It gets me wondering if the idea of Blizz going out like Bungie could ever happen, but then what had happened to Black Ops 4? So I think it's made a lot of people anxious and wonder about like what is Blizzard after this. Again, the folks laid off weren't. I think the language used around that was like the priority wasn't development teams, because a couple news pieces coming out of that investor call were also that Blizzard is hiring more developers for several Diablo projects, and so they are upscaling in some regards as well, or at least responding in that way to the changes, the shuffling. So huge bummer overall. A couple other news notes from that call. Next, Call of Duty getting into so tasteless moving into news like this. I'm sorry, but we're running out of time. Call of Duty is getting an entirely new campaign, and Blizzard will have no major releases in 2019. So just a big bundle of awful with, I don't know, a little some sprinkles of the usual on top.
I knew COD was going to go back to campaigns.
Why do you say that?
I say that because, like, the people I know who play it are a lot of times people who play, like, 1 or 2 games a year because they have, like, busy jobs and lots of kids, and they don't, don't do a lot of online stuff. It's like, I want to sit down, play a campaign, I want to follow the arrows to the objectives and shoot the bad guys. And like as soon as I heard that the last COD wasn't gonna have like a campaign, I was like, oh, there's like at least 3 people I know who would be like, well, I'm not buying that, or they'll buy it and be very surprised that there's no campaign. So I kind of suspected they would head back that direction.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know what a campaign, if it'll be like significantly different after a year off. But again, they're rotating through studios, I'm assuming, so maybe it won't be any different at all, and that's okay. That's fine. Whatever. But let's move on to Far Cry New Dawn. So we're going to be playing the game in co-op. We can't really talk about. I don't know. We can't really say exactly what the review will state. We can't like really talk about our final impressions. We can sort of comment on what's happening as we do it, I suppose. But this is not our final word on the deal. This is just going to be us playing some co-op.
Review's up tomorrow. We're just going to play and take a look at see what's going on in there.
Yep. In the meantime, while I get this booted up, we'll also be taking our usual questions and providing answers, our listener questions, during this segment, because we'll have some downtime. We're not going to be chatting nonstop. So if you have any questions about anything video game related, just tag PC Gamer in Twitch chat with your question. Make sure you tag PC Gamer, otherwise I just won't see it. We do prioritize questions from our club members, and if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say club members, you never will because it's a secret. Just kidding. Go to club.pcgamer.com to find out more. It's just basically a small subscription service that directly supports us. Gives you an ad-free experience on the site, an invite to our private Discord, free game each month, digital subscription to the magazine. We have some in-game goodies, some PC gamer-themed in-game goodies, and a bunch of other stuff. We usually send out little treats whenever we can too, including early beta codes and whatever else we can get. So that's club.pcgamer.com. I have booted up Far Cry. Let me get it switched over here. Boink. And I don't know what the audio is going to be like, so hopefully it's not too loud. All right. Maybe I'll boot it up a little bit. Okay. So, for anyone watching, if you don't want to be spoiled, we're going to be starting just at the second act of the game. I've played about, I don't know, like 4 hours or so. New Dawn review comes out tomorrow. Think for a minute. And yeah, I've barely touched this, so I haven't played a lot. It doesn't take too long to get through Act 1 because it's more of a introductory section teaching you all about the, what New Dawn is. So let me load up here. And let me know, listeners, if the audio is too quiet, too loud. All right. Get these questions up.
Let me try to join your game.
Okay.
Are you in there?
It's loading up right now. So.
Okay.
I don't have Far Cry New Dawn, so I can't.
Yeah, Jared's just hanging out. You can watch Jared at twitch.tv/PCGaming.
I've got it on. I do.
All right, cool.
Should I answer a question? Someone wanted to know what the difference between a GTX and an RTX card is.
Oh yeah. Just if you see any that you know, you can
This is if you're talking performance, it's different than if you're talking features. So the RTX cards are the new Turing architecture, which has RT cores, which stands for ray tracing. So it's got special hardware that is for processing ray tracing calculations. It's actually to calculate the intersection of rays with polygons using the bounding volume hierarchy algorithm, which is a really complex thing to try and describe. So basically calculating where the light or a beam hits the surface and reflects or doesn't. That's uses this BVH algorithm. So that's mostly what the RT cores do. Then there are separate cores called tensor cores that they are basically for deep learning. They can do tons and tons of math calculations. Like a 2080 Ti, I believe, has 110 teraflops of floating point 16 computational power. That means that's 110 trillion math calculations per second. So lots and lots of math, and that's pretty much what you need for deep learning is lots of calculations. So that's what the Turing architecture adds in terms of performance. If we forget about ray tracing and the tensor cores for a minute, your GTX 1080 Ti is a little bit slower than an RTX 2080. Your GTX 1080 is a little bit slower than the 2070, and your GTX 1070 is a little bit slower than the 2060. So like everything kind of translates across one level plus 10. And the pricing is practically the same as well. So like the 2060 is $350. The outgoing 1070 was also down to about $350. So you got new features, slightly better performance, but that's really about it. And that's why a lot of people are kind of ticked at NVIDIA, because they're like, no, we wanted lots more performance and we didn't give a rat's ass about new features. So you kind of screwed us over by adding features instead of performance. So that's the nutshell. Does that answer the question? Anyone?
The history of graphics card and stuff from Jared.
And I will say, like, that stuff has happened in the past before. Like, sometimes you get new features, sometimes you get more performance. and NVIDIA chose to go after
Oh my God.
features this round.
I'm sorry, Chris. Off to a typical start over
Here
here.
you guys.
Did you run over Chris?
There we go. Okay, so before we answer another question, just Chris, can you give us like a basic introduction to like what Far Cry New Dawn is and what it does, what separates it or does differently from Far Cry 5? Oh, can he not hear us? Oh, there he is.
No, I can. I'm just getting like every other word. For some reason, my connection's really slow. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, can hear you.
So yeah, you're back in Montana, and it's about 20-year Far Cry.
Looks like we're losing you a little bit, Chris. Ooh, going in and out. Oh. He's like a slideshow right now.
Is he on your
map
multiplayer?
because
he's glitching out. Sorry, everybody. Can I run him over? Wait, who's? Oh, that's someone I just talked to. Is he still talking?
You guys can hear me and all.
Going in and out, Chris.
Yeah.
Every other word. Okay, well.
I don't know why that's happening. My Discord connection is very slow.
Well, it sounds like you're a little better now, so maybe while we.
Yeah, I all tabbed out of the game. It's when I'm in the game. I just...
Oh, it just doesn't like it.
What kind of processor are you using, Chris?
let's diagnose it right now. Just taking a direct route.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like if you're on a Core i5 or something slightly older, you might actually be running out of resources these days. Too many threads.
Oh. Okay. I'm getting us to where we need to be. The most indirect way possible. Well, the direct way, but...
Alt tab. So yeah, there are a couple changes to the Far Cry formula a bit. I can't tell. Discord is totally frozen. Can you guys hear me at all?
Yep, you sound good.
Okay. Yeah, so a couple changes to the formula. There's these things called expeditions where you actually leave the Far Cry Montana map and go to different parts of the country. Obviously, it's not the whole state. It's kind of like a big stronghold type map with kind of an outpost, kind of a huge extended outpost full of enemies. And the idea is you're there to kind of raid them. And so there's way more enemies, and it's not something that you clear out because there's kind of an infinite number of enemies. Your idea is to get in there, steal some gear, and get out. Another change is with the outposts on the Montana map is that after you beat them, you can repopulate them, and that was a feature Far Cry 5 and 4, I think, and maybe even 3. In this case, when you repopulate them, they add tougher enemies and more. So each one, as you beat it and then repopulate it, it kind of gives you a bigger challenge, a longer challenge, and you get better rewards for beating it. And I think the other thing is sort of, they're calling it a light RPG system. Feels a little bit like the kind of thing that we see in the latest Assassin's Creed games, where enemies have levels or tiers to them, and it's not anywhere near an Assassin's Creed game. There's only 4 different levels of enemy, kind of a rank 1 through 3, and then they call it the elite level. But you kind of need to upgrade your weapons, because the weapons also have tiers to them. If you go after a 4-tier enemy with a tier 1 gun, you're not going to do much to him at all. It doesn't really come into play that much. I mean, as you're playing and gathering resources and upgrading your your weapons to higher tiers, that's kind of about the time you're going to be encountering tougher enemies. So I didn't really wind up a lot of times like feeling like, oh no, I'm surrounded by tier 4 enemies, I can't do anything. It seemed to progress pretty naturally, and honestly, I didn't even really notice that much, other than just saying, oh, I think I'm gonna, now that I've got the resources, I'm gonna upgrade my weapons just because I want more weapons. So it didn't feel intrusive or even really that much of a change, to be honest.
Huh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty early on, so I haven't seen many high tier enemies or anything like that, so it hasn't really come into play yet. Why don't we go? So I marked an outpost. Why don't we go liberate it? Because that'll show up. We'll probably run into some like 1 or 2 higher level enemies. Oh, actually, let's hit up this. I thought I saw. Oh yeah, scavenger on the map somewhere over here. So there are like some sort of like new world events I've noticed too, including like supply drops.
Yeah, there's airdrops that it kind of feels like a PUBG type of thing, but it's not, because they drop them right at your location. Obviously, there's not
Whoa. Got him.
But yeah, some enemies will show up to try to loot it.
I like this saw gun.
Whoa. Oh, you're using the saw gun?
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I don't have mine.
Oh, what?
I swapped it for a grenade launcher at some point.
All right, let's let's go to this.
Oh, can I call him my pig?
Ooh, you got a buddy?
No, I can't call him my pig in co-op, I guess.
That's right, because you technically are my buddy in this. I will say, like, and I forgot that this game runs beautifully. A lot like Far Cry 5 did, obviously. Just nice frame rates, little hassle in hitting all those. Like, I'm on Ultra right now. I have a 1070 in this laptop. And I'm breaking 60 FPS pretty easily. So that's... if you were concerned about that, doesn't seem to be a problem, at least from what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, cool. I have a 980, and I've been playing on Ultra, and it hasn't been a problem at all.
What is that?
Which is nice.
I got a Wolverine.
Tend to struggle with some games.
Alu Hard asks, is this like Far Cry 5 that the save game is only affected on the host? You know, I don't know, because this is my first time playing co-op. So I think so. I think Chris is just a guest in my world.
I don't know. It just let me save.
Oh, really?
I assume it would carry over, but I'm not sure, to be honest.
Cool. Maybe you just bring the resources back, and that's what it's noting, at least. Because I think resources and such are a much bigger part of this from what I've played. Gathering.
Yeah, you need to gather a couple different types of resources to upgrade your gear and add things to your arsenal and different vehicles and things like that. And you need ethanol to upgrade the base itself to higher levels.
Gotcha.
And ethanol you get from outposts, and there's like tanker trucks driving around sometimes that you can kill the driver and drive it back to your base. Airdrops also have a bit of ethanol in them.
Go up here real quick. Some ammo. All right. Oh, I forgot I have a parachute. Yeah. So another thing I've noticed is that it really just shoots you into the open world activities right away. It's much more like, from what I've played, there aren't a lot of super guided missions. This feels like something that's almost made to be played co-op, or at least like repeatedly, more so than Far Cry 5 was. Especially with that fact you can renew those outposts and get better rewards for it.
Yeah, it does quests feel usually pretty streamlined, kind of in and out, not like some of the Far Cry 5 ones where it felt like you'd be kind of dealing with a lot of long, extended missions. Most of these are pretty short.
I forgot how to get... Do I have binoculars yet? I don't know if I do.
They have to be unlocked. Oh, there's a guy right here.
All right, I'll just.
Yeah, he's dead.
Oop. See if we can.
Gonna zip line in.
Yeah, just gonna mark some people because I love doing it. Who's this? Who are you? Go away! It's dangerous over here. Pretty, yeah, and I've noticed, like, at least these early outposts, it seems like they're very easy compared to what I remember, or I'm just good at the game.
Those citizens just started the fight themselves.
And that's I've noticed citizens just happen to be around a lot of the time. Ooh. Do you feel like what I'm worried about is, like, or at least early on I was worried about the RPG. Oh my gosh, it's hard to talk and manage a stream right now. Like, the mushier, higher level enemies make clearing outposts, like, almost guaranteed to be less stealth dependent, because there's going to be some guy who's maybe too mushy for you to stab.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things, I mean, you can unlock skills any order you want, so if you can pretty quickly get to the point where you can, like, stealth kill even higher level enemies. I forget how much the perks cost, but there's, like, you have the basic takedown, and then there's rank 2 and 3, and then elite takedown, and you can unlock those right away if you want.
Oh god.
There's still plenty of stealth.
Oh, got him. I think. Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, gosh. Okay. Hey! Not bad.
Hey, you did it.
That's pretty fun. Still pretty fun. It's like, this is not a reinvention of Far Cry by any means, but I still like clearing outposts.
Yeah, so this was like a level 1, and what you can do is decide to scavenge it, which will give you some more resources, but it will immediately populate it with a second alarm tower, more enemies, tougher enemies. So it's kind of like you're kind of upgrading this for the bad guys when you do that. But then you can retake it and then upgrade it again, and then retake it and upgrade it again.
Gotcha. Let me unlock this real quick. We got some questions in chat. So Ray3ID. Are they attaching the level editor with all the new assets again? The previous editor and asset library was amazing.
That's a good question. You know, I don't see an editor, but
like the what was it called? Far Cry 5 Arcade? Isn't that what it was called or whatever?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't see an option here for it.
Yeah, I don't remember that in the menu either. This seems to be like a standalone thing. But I wonder if Far Cry 5 at least is getting that. All right, cool. Classic Outpost. Let me talk to this person. Another question unrelated to Far Cry from one of our club members I skipped over. And I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think Apex... This is from Thick Blitz. Do you think Apex Legends will eventually dethrone Fortnite?
I don't think so. I think Fortnite's probably going to be fine.
I mean, I think part of the draw to Fortnite is that it changes up every couple of weeks with new things, and sometimes they don't work that well, but it keeps it moving. There's so many people that have played it. I mean, I don't know. I'm burned out on Fortnite. Sorry, James, but
it's all right.
You know, and I think some people are ready to move on, but look at PUBG. There's still nearly 1 million people playing daily, or 500,000. Like, that's still a ton of people. I think it's going to be a very long time before Fortnite's player base really starts to decline. So
yeah, I think I'm with you. Can I make a helicopter yet? No, dang it.
I should be able to. Hold on.
Oh, sweet. I think Fortnite and Apex will coexist because I think they serve kind of different audiences. it was just amazing reviewing Apex compared to Fortnite because our audience skews toward older, like I think I would say people in their late teens, early and above, like into their 40s and 50s and 60s. And most of the comments about anything I posted about Fortnite were always like, "This game is for kids. It's a kiddie game. It sucks. Yada yada." But here, like, if you play it, it's actually very good. If you can look past sort of the cartoony presentation and the meme culture it's made of, it's a very good game. It's also alienating because of the building system. That's not something I think older gamers can acclimate to as easily. But when Apex came around, like a free-to-play battle royale game with a monetization scheme and all the same things that Fortnite is made of, at least from the top down. Here, I'll get in sidecar with you. Take me somewhere. The reaction to Apex has been overwhelmingly positive. So I think like the demographics are going to be a little different or different enough to support both. You got to remember Fortnite. Gosh, the last time we checked in, the concurrent player count was something like 8 million. So think about that. Think about the fact that it's on mobile, it's on Switch, it's much more scalable. Parents are probably going to react to it a little better with their kids. So I really hope they can coexist because Fortnite's a fascinating game. I don't think this has to be a thing where there's always going to be one Titan. I think Apex was a little easier for. Oh God, Chris!
What?
It's just.
I didn't see a thing.
Anyway, yeah. I forgot what I was even saying because we were dragging a body there for a good 200 yards. Let's find a new place to go. What about maybe we can take a look at a side mission? Let's go. I haven't seen Pastor Jerome yet from the first game.
Oh, okay. See him? Where is he?
I put a map marker, yeah, so I should be able to. In chat, Apex is the only BR that makes playing with randos easy and fun. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that is a major reason for Apex. Its crazy success and positive reception. Like the first victory I ever had in that game was with strangers, and it felt as clean and smooth as a group of buddies I've been playing with for a long time. It was amazing. And Fortnite desperately needs that ping system. Most games need that ping system. Ooh, can I? I can't turn around all the way. Whoa! Far Cry is still good for these shenanigans. Oh. God damn it. Where'd they go? Ah. Got him. Alright. Let's take another look.
For a game that only has a 3-player mode that you have to play with somebody, it's pretty remarkable and kind of how comfortable that feels.
Yeah, oh, I forgot to link to my review in chat, but that is, I think, what puts it over for us. There was some debate at the end about the score, and you'll see here I gave it a 93, which is, I think, maybe our highest game of the year. It's pretty early in the year, but one of our highest.
Gotta kill this driver.
Ooh, let's do it. All right, let's drive up next to him. I will saw blade him.
Get him.
Oh! Oh! Alright, I'm gonna just... It's too hard with that saw blade. Got him!
Did you get him?
Yep. Let's free these people. Ah! Uh-oh. Piggy! Animals still kind of leap out at you every 20 paces.
Yeah.
Sweet. So that's another little event. It's not too... I think there was literally the same thing in Far Cry 5, freeing prisoners.
Yeah, you get perk points that you use every time you...
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Where'd our marker go?
It's behind us, I believe. Do you not see it anymore?
I don't see it. Oh, maybe I see it.
Alright. Let's see. Did I miss any questions here? you got any questions about anything in the game, excuse me, that's not evaluative about Far Cry New Dawn, or any questions about anything PC gaming, just tag PC Gamer in Twitch chat, and we'll see if we can get to you. We'll have about like 10 minutes left of dinking around in New Dawn. Ooh. Whoa, it's a big ol'...
Oh boy.
Mad Max looking car.
You got him.
Nice. Ooh, what's this?
Supply truck.
It's a very busy game. Don't blow up the truck, there's loot inside.
Yes, correct.
Can I blow out the tires? Who's chasing us?
Yeah, I think you can blow out the tires.
Oh my god. Where's this guy hitting me from? Oh.
There's some in front of us too.
Nice. Alright. Oh yeah, so these you have to take back to your base, right?
No. This is this one you open. This
Okay.
little hatch here.
Oh, right. Do we have to repair it first? Okay.
No, I just set my torch up.
So you get titanium. Is
Get that
titanium
stuff.
like a especially rare resource? Because I can't really... I've seen it a couple times.
It's you usually find it in safes.
Right. Is it a premium
Income
currency, or is it just like a...
It's a component you're going to use to build certain things or craft certain things.
Alright, cool. The Far Cry engine is just so darn beautiful, says Ray3ID. My potato even runs it well. Yeah, I think... And plus this is a budget price game, right? It's, well, I don't want... Budget price game implies a lot, so I just mean it's $40. So it's
$40, yeah.
less than the usual 60 of new premium games. I'm gonna grapple up. Whoa! I love the grapple. Well, do I gotta kill these
I mean,
people
it's kind of
first?
the interesting thing with, you know, Far Cry's engine versus like Metro's engine. Metro just, it's always felt like it runs worse than it should compared to other games that look similar in quality.
Yeah, well, I mean, like 4A versus
Ubisoft.
the global entity of Ubisoft is, you know, and plus they've been working on these. They've had multiple studios working on this engine and these design principles across multiple
You know, maybe
games.
that's, you guys probably already talked about that whole Epic Store exclusivity, but you
Right.
know, when you think about what 4A games is, I'm like, they probably pretty much guaranteed the success of their game by switching it from Steam, you know, meaning like even if no one buys it, they probably got paid enough from Epic to be like, okay, that worked out well in our favor. So I don't blame them for that, but yeah, they don't have the resources that some of these big AAA publishers do. I still think the game would have sold plenty on Steam to.
Oh, sure, and I'm sure it did sell plenty on Steam because it was technically. Ooh, let's get that supply drop. I'm trying to ping Chris. This is how, like, Apex has gotten into under my skin. I'm just like, yes,
Kablooey.
love it. Uh-oh,
What
but
happened?
I forgot the fire propagates so quickly in this game.
Yeah.
Well,
Fire be propagating.
yeah. Just let that go down, and we'll maybe just run through that mission and then call it. So, Meatball for you asks, what VR titles are you guys looking forward to over the next 6 months? You know, that's a good question.
VR or VR?
VR.
VR. Gosh. I haven't really thought about VR a whole lot recently.
Yeah, I haven't either. You know, I saw news of some Oculus RPG or something. I can't remember. So, like, I'm out of touch. I feel like I just haven't... I tried catching up on some VR games about a month or two ago. So I played a bunch of Moss, which is an excellent little platformer featuring a mouse. It's very cute. I played... Oh my god, I have it here. What's it called? A very funny, like, Stanley Parable like VR title about. Actually, it's very timely. It's about a covering up you guys. A game development studio making VR games, like a startup, and the sort of toxic culture, greedy culture that makes that up, but in a very funny, surreal. Oh, it's called virtual reality. I played a bunch of Beat Saber. I got that recently. Having a great time with that. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's coming out.
Yeah, me neither.
If you, who's that Meatball for you? If there's anything you're looking forward to, and you want to put on our radar, just like please tell us. It's tough. All right. Oh, hey, buddy. I didn't see him. That's a good guy. We're search zone here. I missed the prompt for... Something happened. What's going on? Oh, gotta read this. There's a crazy preacher with a shotgun running around attacking convoys. If you catch him, my boss wants to talk to him as fast as possible. Bring him to the old Kellett place, and we'll ship him off for questioning pronto. Oh, so we just gotta go save old Pastor Jerome. Wonder how he's shaping up. Just this way, huh? All right.
Well, hey, can I drop off the air here? I don't know if that.
Oh yeah, Jared. Feel free to take off. We're gonna finish up here shortly anyway. So, oh.
Bye, guys. Have a good time.
Was that it?
What?
That convoy? Wait.
No, that was just a guy driving by.
Oh, okay.
Mission's in here.
I'm gonna go save him real quick anyway. I abandoned Jerome. No, I didn't. Did I lose?
I'm not sure. I think you might have gotten too far away from either me or mission.
Well, I failed that. I didn't really listen to the parameters, so that's on me.
I didn't think we were that far away.
Yeah,
from.
I think we just arrived. Maybe it expected us to
What
ride.
do we do? Do we have to leave and come back?
Yep. So it's back here now. Whoops. Map.
Oh, maybe he was in the convoy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. That was kind of weird. Multitasking will do that. Let's see, Meatball says, kind of looking for a reason to try VR. I don't own any setup. Valve messing with a lens has me curious about all that. Yeah, I don't blame you. All right, running out of time, but let's just like hammer this out if you don't mind. Show people a little more of this game, other than us dinking around. Jeff Powell, what did you guys think of... I'm driving and distracted right now. What did you guys think of RE2, and are you looking forward to the free DLC this week? Got a pretty glowing review on our website. Oh, shit.
Nice.
All right.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. Yeah, Andy Kelly reviewed that too. Give it a pretty high score. I played the Leon A campaign, and I just started Claire B. I haven't had time because of all these games and reviewing Apex and dipping into Metro and Far Cry and soon Anthem. Ugh. But I love it. I think it's great, and those free DLC packs sound pretty interesting because they are just, as I understand, short little vignettes based on what ifs from different characters' perspectives that you run into, including like the gun store owner, I think one of the soldiers. So it's exciting. It's cool. I want to play more of that. Oh, shit. Bad guy's already back here, huh?
Oh no, I was killed.
Coming.
Help me, James. Revive me.
You got it.
There's a dude near me, though, so watch out.
All right. Back up. Going bat first. Uh-oh.
What happened?
I shouldn't go at them with a bat. But I want to. Oh, I got you. All right. Okay, so maybe the convoy, you can just save him earlier because he's right here. Can I lock you up?
I'm trying to get in. There we go.
While I'm done talking to this guy, I'll... This guy's aged nicely. Stay trim.
He's doing okay.
Yeah. Oh no!
What happened?
I think when you shot, it interrupted the dialogue.
Oh shit! Sorry.
It's okay. No, because it's nice because they pick up. They go, oh, you can lock yourself in. All right, I did it. To close out, get in the back of this, and why don't you go ahead and climb in back there, Chris? Whoops, wrong button there.
It's gonna blow me up.
That's the wrong thing. Well, I just totally obscured the cool explosion and smoke. All right. Let's call it there. Anyway, thanks everybody. That's the PC Gamer Show for this week. We'll be back next week with, gosh, I'm sure we'll be talking all about Anthem. Maybe more conclusive thoughts on Far Cry. And, oh God, whatever else. Crackdown is also coming out I forgot about. So, but until then, you can catch us at pcgamer.com/tag/podcast. Again, we're on Spotify now. Search the PC Gamer Show if you want to get your podcast there. We're on Google Play. So you can go to, again, search the PC Gamer Show on there. And we'll have our new RSS feed up today at pcgamer.com/tag/podcast. You can download the MP3 there as well. We'll have the show up on youtube.com/pcgamer shortly as well. So hang out here, PC Gamer, or twitch.tv/pcgamer. Oh no! Chris! And we're here 1 p.m. Pacific time every Wednesday. Until then, we'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.